Hello and welcome back to the second part of the guided assessment for Access Chapter 4. So we're getting ready to start on step number 5. Step number 5 says open the room information form in layout view. So I'm going to go ahead and double click it. That'll open it up. If I right click here, we're currently in form view. We need to be in layout view. And that'll allow us to do certain things that you couldn't do in form view. It then says select all controls in the form and apply the stacked layout. So to select all the objects here, I'm going to hold down the shift key and click here. So I've selected everything. And then it wants us to select the stacked layout. Now, if you run into something like this, where it's selected all around the square, that's not going to work. What you want to do is make sure you've selected all the labels and all the text boxes and the check boxes. And so that's everything that's on the screen. Notice you also want to be on the Arrange tab now, and you'll see that Stacked is available to you. So you'll click there, and notice how when I did Stacked, it aligned everything, which is nice, the way we'd like it to be. Now what you've got here are your labels and your text boxes. So the labels, it pulls from the table that this form was made from, and this is the actual data that's in there. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you will see a data control that allows you to scroll through the records that this form is linked to a particular table. So if I click on that, you can see how it changes the data above. Right, we've talked about these scroll bars before. All right, the last thing is switch to form view and then save and close the form. So if I do a right click here, go to form view, notice everything's aligned. It looks great now. And we're going to close that. It'll ask us if we want to save it, which we do. Step 6, select the speaker and room schedule query. So that's this one. As the record source for a report. Activate the report wizard and use the following options as you proceed through the wizard steps. So typically, remember when we've talked about the database book, I've always said the output determines the input. And so if I know what I want to produce at the end, that tells me what I have to gather in terms of data. The data then is pulled using a query. And so here, this query, if we look at it, has these particular fields in it. That's going to be used to generate a report. And a report is, in my opinion, nothing more than the output of a query that has been made to look nice. All right, so in order to use this database management system, you select the query first. So I just have it highlighted. I don't have it open. Then I come over here to create, and you will see that I can create more queries, or I can actually create a report, or I can do a report design. So what it says activate the report wizard, okay, and use the following options as you proceed through the wizard step. The report wizard is right here. And so we're going to click on that. And so then it's saying, okay, what are we going to use? We're going to make this report. What do we use as our input to this report? It can either be a table or a query. Because we selected the query already, it already comes up here. If I wanted to use something else or in addition to what I've got selected, you can see it's using all the tables, all the queries that we have in our objects already. Going to leave that alone. You didn't need to click on that. it wants to use all the available fields. So this allows us to select one field at a time. This double arrow allows us to get them all. View the data by speakers. Okay. So we're done with that. We're not going to add any more data anywhere. So I'm going to hit next. It says, how do you want to view your data? So that's the second screen here in this wizard. So that's my primary sort. So speakers, verify last name and first name as the grouping levels. So it's grouped up here. Use date as the primary sort field. So I'm going to click next. So it says, and I guess I got ahead here. We want last name, then first name as grouping levels. We'll hit next. And then it says you can sort records by up to 4 different fields in either ascending or descending. So this would be your primary sort, secondary sort, tertiary, and so on. And that just means that everything is sorted on this first. Everything that's alike would then be sorted by the second one. Everything that's alike then would be sorted by the third one. Phone books are the classic example of having that 3-level sort. All right, so we want to use date as our primary sort field, and we want to do it in ascending order. We want to do the layout as stepped. That's the default. And we want to do it as a portrait option. We'll click next, or we can hit finish. And we want to save the name as a speaker schedule. All right. Now, before I do that, I want to back up a little bit and just make sure you're aware of everything else. Look what's on your screen here. So we can look at our options. That's what it's telling us. Right. And we've got everything selected correctly. So you just want to go back and just double check everything that you've done. Is that correctly? Remember, you got 3 options here. You can always go back and fix things. Everything looks good. Finish. And so now we have the report. Step 7 says, switch the layout view and apply organic theme to this report only. Save and close the report. All right, so we need to be in layout view. Currently, we're in print preview. So we're going to be in layout view. Okay, so we're going to then click up here. We see how we can arrange it differently if we want. We can format it different things if we like. And we can go to a page setup. For this option, we need to go to design, and it wants us to select an organic theme. So we need to hover over this until we find the one that says organic. Keep going through here. And that's the one we're looking for. Now, it may be that we need to make sure we've not selected anything and then click organic. And so that gets that entire report. If you selected just one item, it may just be that you're going to apply that theme to that one object. And then that'll be counted wrong because it was just applied to the object and not to the entire report. So we're ready to save, we're ready to close. All right. Step 8. Open the speaker and room schedule query in Design View. So we're going to double click, do a right click, go to Design View. We've got our query by example. Notice that's up there kind of far, so I'm going to bring this down so I can see my fields and everything. It says add starting time field in the sessions table to the design grid. So we got here's the sessions table, and now here's the starting time. So I'll just drag it, drop it there. And it wants it after the date field, run the query. And as you can see, we've run it. We've got starting time there. Save and close the query. That was easy enough. Easy points. Step 9. Click the speaker and room schedule query. So we've done that. Activate the report wizard again. So we're going to go to create. Use the following options. Select all the available fields for the report. Notice that starting time is now there. So what we did is we changed the query. We're going to build a different report for that query. View the data by speakers. So it's by speakers. Use last name and first name fields for grouping. So last name, first name is there for grouping. Use date as the primary sort field in ascending order. So very similar to before, we got ascending there. Use the starting time as the secondary sort field in ascending order. So we'll click on starting time. Accept stepped and portrait. And we need to give this a name called speaker schedule revised. We'll hit finish. And so you can see we've got some problems to fix there. It doesn't ask us to fix them, but you see how we don't see starting time listed there all the way, and because we haven't made the object wide enough to hold that time, we're getting these number pads or hashtags there. And so you can see we've got some errors. So everything that last names that are the same, then we sort by starting time. Okay. So 10 says switch to layout view and apply the facet theme to this report only. So I'm going to switch to layout view. So what are you getting from this? So during layout view, that's where you can apply the theme. And we want to use facet this time. So that's this green one. Click that. And we should be good. Step 11 says adjust the width of the columns and other controls so that all the data is visible and fits across the page. Switch to report view to ensure that the adjustments were appropriate. Return to layout view and make required changes. Add spaces to the column heading labels so that all the values display as 2 words where appropriate. For example, change room ID to room space ID and save and close the report. So what we've got here is we've got these field names that were brought directly from our tables, but that's not how we really want them to appear in a report. So if I double click in there, this is where I can change the spacing. First name is good, date is good, but then we see, oh, that's not so good. So I need to widen that up so I can see it all. But when I do that, the next thing over is not spaced correctly. So what I'm going to need to do is maybe adjust the width here. I'm going to move this over a little bit. And you can see where session title just taking up way too much room. So I'm going to move that in a little. So now I can move that over. And you're going to have to play with this a little bit to get the spacing right. All right. So that's what we'll do. Now keep in mind that I need to be in layout view in order to do this. So that looks good, but maybe I can bring that in a little bit. Same thing for this. Bring it over. So I grab all those, bring them over. Date, that looks okay, but I might be able to bring that over, bring all those over a little bit. So then starting time, might be able to bring that over, and I need to widen that up a little bit so we can see that. Then these, I probably need to bring that over some more. So what I will do is I'll select those and make those a little shorter and then bring them over. That allows me to grab those and move those over a little bit. Now I may not be able to widen those up enough to show everything that's in those boxes, but everything is starting to look like it's aligned appropriately. So if I were to print it out, it looks good. Okay. Doesn't look like we have anybody with the same last name, and that way we would sort then on first name, that grouping there. All right, if I go to the report view, see what it would look like when we print, it looks good. So I go back over and look at my step again. Add space to the column heading. I think everything, I probably need to change room ID again. So I need to get back in layout view. Starting time. Needs a space. Session title. Needs a space. Room ID. Needs a space. I definitely, suggest or make a strong point that you read the chapter and so you learn how to do the spacing here. So we're ready to save and close and submit this for grading. And that ends how we do this Access Guided Assessment for Chapter 4. One last thing that I want to talk about is when I graded this, I didn't get the points for applying the correct theme to this. So notice that when I've got the speaker schedule up here and I go to themes, it's going to be applied to an object. And so this is step 7, I believe. I need to right click on this and then say apply theme to all matching objects. And I may have to select all the objects on this screen in order to I want to get out of that in order to select the entire, do a right click and see if that applies it to all of the objects on that report.